Okay, we are still in the introduction part of chapter 3. Okay, this is about the scatter diagram, also known as scatter plot. So scatter diagram is a graph that shows a relationship between two variables. So basically, for scatter diagram, from the graph of scatter diagram, we can describe the relationship between two variables. So the relationship between two variables can be a positive relationship or negative relationship. Okay. So because this one is a graph, so of course we must have the x-axis and y-axis. Okay. So x-axis is our independent variable. So of course x-axis is labeled on the horizontal axis, while the y-axis should be your dependent variable and it is labeled on the vertical axis. This is x, this is y. X is the independent, y is the dependent because the value of y depends on the value of x. Okay, in constructing scatter diagram, you must use a graph paper. And for scatter diagram, you will plot points only. Okay, only plot points in scatter diagram. No need to connect these points with a straight line. Okay, you just plot points in scatter plot. Okay, if the scatter diagram forms certain patterns, whether increasing or decreasing, we can say that there is a relationship between the two variables. If your scatter diagram like this, increasing pattern. So increasing pattern indicates positive relationship. While decreasing pattern, okay, something like this, okay, decreasing pattern, this one indicates negative relationship. Okay. But if the scatter diagram does not show any pattern or it is randomly scattered, we can assume that the two variables do not have a relationship. Okay, so you must remember these two basic concepts. Increasing pattern, positive relationship. Decreasing pattern, negative relationship. Alright? Okay, so these are the patterns that you might encounter in your scatter diagram. Okay, so the first one here. So from this scatter diagram, of course, we can say that this is negative relationship because this is decreasing pattern. Okay, pattern yang menurun. Macam orang turun tangga. So this one is negative relationship. But to be more specific, this one is perfect negative relationship or perfect negative correlation. Why perfect? Because if you connect these points with a line, you will get a very nice straight line. Okay, so this is a perfect negative relationship. Okay, but for the second graph here, this one is a perfect positive relationship. Why positive? Because the graph shows an increasing pattern. Increasing pattern, something that is increasing. So this one is positive relationship because the points is very perfectly in a straight line. So this one is a perfect positive relationship. Alright. Okay, next. Okay, this is a non-linear relationship. Okay, why non-linear? Linear is something, if you have a linear relationship, you will get something that is a straight line. Whether straight line like this or straight line like this, increasing straight line or decreasing straight line. So for A and B graph, this is a linear relationship or linear correlation. A is negative linear relationship, B is positive linear relationship. But for C, if you connect these lines with if you connect this point with a line, you won't get a straight line. So this is a non-linear relationship. Okay, the two variables still have the relationship, but the relationship is not linear. The relationship is not straight line. Okay, but for D, this one is a curvilinear. Okay, curvilinear is when you have an increasing pattern, and at one point the pattern changed to decreasing pattern, something like this. So this one is known as curvilinear relationship. Next, okay, this one. All right, this one here. This one, if you analyze the pattern, this one is still increasing pattern. Of course, this one is positive relationship or positive correlation. But this is not like the first graph just now. So this is not a perfect, the second graph. This is not the perfect positive relationship. But this we can say that this one is a strong positive relationship or high positive relationship. But for this one is a weak positive. Okay, weak positive relationship. Okay, the graph shows a pattern of increasing. Okay, but it is not nicely increased like this. So this one is a weak positive correlation or weak positive relationship. Okay, as for this one here, this one is a decreasing pattern. So of course, negative correlation, but it is not like the first graph here. This one is perfect negative. So for this one, we can say that this is a strong negative correlation. But this one right here, this is a weak negative. Okay, because because the decreasing pattern is not nicely decreased like this one. So we cannot say that this is a strong negative correlation. So for this one, it is weak negative correlation. Okay, next, when your scatter diagram does not show any pattern, so we can conclude that the two variables have no correlation or no relationship. Okay, so your scatter diagram might look like this. Okay, the pattern is very hard to identify whether it is increasing or decreasing. So this one we can conclude that this graph shows no pattern at all, so no correlation between the two variables. Okay, let's try this example. Draw a scatter diagram for the following data and state the type of relationship between the variables. Okay, so first construct the scatter diagram. So please use your graph paper to construct scatter diagram. Okay, so you will get something like this. Okay. Okay, next you must identify the type of relationship, whether it is positive or negative relationship. So for this one, the graph shows an increasing pattern. Okay, pattern yang menaik. So we can say that there is a positive linear relationship between the variables x and y. Okay. Okay, you must also include the word linear here because linear means the x and y, the relationship between x and y is a linear. So you can see that from this graph, if you connect these points with a line, you will get a straight line. So it is very important to include this word linear here. Okay. And of course, you must have the word positive here because this graph shows an increasing pattern. Increasing pattern means positive relationship. Okay, next example. Plot the data below and determine whether a linear relationship exists between the variables P and Q. If there is, state the relationship. Okay, so use your graph paper to plot this data. You will get something like this. Okay, and remember that, please remember that P is the dependent variable. P is the independent variable, while Q is the dependent variable. So P must be located at the horizontal axis, while Q is in vertical axis. Okay, so this is your scatter diagram. So from this scatter diagram, we cannot see any increasing or decreasing pattern. So we can say that this graph does not show any pattern. Okay. So when the graph does not show any pattern, this means there is no relationship between the two variables. So that's all for scatter diagram. So I hope you can understand this first part of chapter 3, the introduction part. Okay, so for the next video, you will learn about the correlation coefficient, how to calculate the value of correlation coefficient. Okay, so thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next video.